Hello, world.
Ah, how you doing? How you doing?
Yes. How is everybody on the interwebs? Um, Welcome to another episode. Of course, Dan and I were your hosts here, developer advocates from Chef. We lost Dan.
I'm
Oh, while we
just
figure it out.
uh, I'm just arguing with my camera.
Oh, well, okay.
It's fine.
Don't beat it up, Dan. Don't beat it up. Well, you're in for a treat today. We're going to be InSpec Inputs are also InSpec
Come on.
attributes. It was interesting. First, though, let's get started with pre-flight checks and let's queue up Twitter. Because if you're not following us on Twitter, what are you doing?
Yeah, some
At
really nice stuff there.
Say that again.
Uh, there's some really cool stuff. So I think we're we're putting out some more content recently.
Hmm.
You and I, and
For sure.
like all of the blog posts you put out are going to be notified on there. Which there's a ton of blog posts coming recently, which is so some really interesting ones coming up. There's some stuff about InSpec actually.
Yeah.
Caught a sneak peek about that one. That's in the works. I'm waiting for to some. It's about inheriting custom resources in spec. So if you're into that
Oh,
kind of stuff,
nice.
then yeah. And the first place you'll hear about it is either direct on the chef blog, but it will be reposted on Twitter. So
So
that's the
follow
best place to
up.
get your chef news
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely. Follow Dan on Twitter too. He talks about Brexit. Brrr. and
No,
and
I
DevOps stuff,
didn't.
right?
I haven't. I think I've like not posted about Brexit for at least a week. No, it's been a while now. That's fine. How long's it been? I think I've mostly been doing chef stuff actually. So all of my little demos are coming on there and that kind of stuff.
Sweet. Nice,
It's cool.
nice. Very
Yeah.
productive, useful content. So, quite in contrary to what I really post. I mean, I repost chef stuff. So if you miss it on chef, you'll probably see it on my Twitter. And then also sometimes I will post our live streams a little bit ahead of time. So follow me on Twitter too at BlackGirlCTO.
Yeah, those.
And if you are a practitioner or just even interested in learning more about Chef and DevOps in general, check out our community Slack. Specifically for practitioners, if you've got questions and you live in what, the EMEA time zones and US time zones, you can pretty much get your questions answered like
Yeah.
immediately, like in real time, a wealth of knowledge. We also host community meetings weekly on community Slack as
When I
well.
say we, it's all you. That's all you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. No, I mean, the entire chef team, like
That's
the
true.
the teams put out all of their updates, and you kind of get to know what's in the works
Yeah.
here at
If you've
Chef.
got questions about what's coming up, that's the best place to go and see it. And you might not catch it there and then as well, but you can paste, like you can talk about the releases there as well. And
Hmm.
that's quite nice. So I often don't catch it during the community hour, but I might catch it a couple of hours later if I'm lucky. Um, and then people still respond a few days later as well, which is really
Yep,
nice.
that is,
That's pretty
that
sweet.
is, and you know what? I never really realized how effective that strategy of like doing a meeting on Slack is. Because
Yeah,
nobody ever misses anything. You can go back and look at, well, not all of the community meetings because, like I think it goes after, we lose messages after a certain point, but you can go and check out a good amount of the last few at least. So definitely check out our community Slack. And you can also DM us on there.
yes, you should do that.
Yep.
Oh, I've been signed out of all my places. I wanted to sign back into YouTube.
Oh,
It's fine.
yeah.
We've got some fun spam over on our YouTube channel.
Oh,
Because of course we have. I mean, why would you not?
why would you not spam us?
Ugh, weird. It's really odd.
Oh, hilarious. Also, last but not least, discourse. It's kind of like, our corner of the internet, like Stack Overflow, forum style. We also post community meeting notes there. And those you can probably get the majority of the community meetings, because the repository there is a lot larger. Um, and you can post like forum style questions and you'll get answers, in a couple of days or so. And that's it. So let's get into it.
Oh, you surprised me. You surprised me. Surprised me. So we're going to talk about InSpec attributes, which surprisingly are not called attributes anymore. They're called inputs. Um, every time I move on
Yeah.
this table, I'm like shaking my monitor. So if I'm like, bam, 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 it's really annoying me. Hence why I was playing on my camera. I was just trying to see if I can play with my camera again a second because it's gonna bug me. Uh, I open up my camera utility, and I can't believe I'm doing this on air. I can't
I mean,
believe that I it's not why. I was like, oh, I'll be fine. I'll stream with it uh,
what, with
on
your
my
camera
other
on?
camera.
I think
On my other
it's a
sorry,
good
on.
idea to stream with the camera on.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, well, yeah, right. Yeah, it's fine.
That's a great idea, Dan.
I
Well, let's
don't
talk
think we
about
even
what
need.
inputs are.
Yeah, so what I'm messing around with, so attributes are inputs. So if you're looking for no, you're not gonna play a ball with me. You're not gonna go on,
Your camera's
do it,
awesome, Dan.
go on. I'll do it. There we go. I corralled it into action. It's fine.
Oh, you got a close up now. Look at that.
Yeah. I corralled it into action. It's all good. Uh, so attributes are actually inputs. We renamed them a while ago. Deprecated the thing called attributes because they kind of it's getting a bit mixed up with chef attributes and chef info attributes. So actually, inputs are the way forward.
Okay.
Um, uh, inputs are a way of changing the way your changing the way InSpec works.
Hmm.
So I think let's say you have. In fact, I'm going to do. I've got a really simple example in a second. But if you've got, let's say, a big loop of kernel modules, for example, that you want to disable, rather than having to list them all out and then change them that way, or changing the inspec content, you can just change a YAML file, which you can then sort of input into it, and you can test different numbers of kernel modules. So let's say you've got like one kernel module and it's got to be disabled or not loaded or it's fine. And then you find you've got another one and another one and another one. That's fine. Well, actually, well, let's say security came along and security were like, right, I want these three kernel modules to be disabled. And you're like, fine, I can write some inspec. I can make some inspec for that.
Right.
When they come along and say, okay, I need these other 14 added, and you're like, fine. And it's just a lot of extra boilerplate code. So if I open up,
Ah,
so this is kind of like, I mean, the way I've used it here is exactly like kind of drying up my code. I could have just written an array, and this is a one way of sort of making it really flexible.
right.
So I've got an input here, and then I'm looping through the inputs. And this is one of many ways of doing this. So this is like the first way that comes to mind. So I use inputs. So I grab the disable kernel modules input, and I loop through them, and then I do something with them. So I could have written this out 5, 6 times. So kernel module, and then so describe kernel module, then the module name, and then I do something with it. And then I do something with the second one, and it's exactly the same. That's fine. So if you find yourself looping through lots of modules, inputs might be a really nice way of saying, well, today I want to test these modules, but actually, eventually, we want to disable a DRM module, for example.
Right. So, question. And you know what? So, I mean, this is a safe space for like learning in public here. So, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go ahead and say there are no stupid questions, even though you might consider this one. The other week we talked about waivers, and we talked about how you can like skip certain the controls. So, what's the like? And here we're talking about how you're able to what is it? It seems like it's the same thing, skipping
So it's
certain.
not. So I'm doing something that kind of
How does that differ?
there's a kind of different a few different ways of doing it. So I'm
Okay.
or different strategies, I guess I call it.
Mhm.
So the strategy I'm using for inputs here is I'm saying I want this test to be I want to loop over an array, and
Okay.
I'm going to construct the array via inputs. It just happens to be inputs, and there's a bunch of other ways of making so making inputs. So you can do it on. Just get the full list here a second because I'm going to miss one of them because I don't use them all. So I'm just going to grab the docs a second. There you are. So there's where are we? Come on,
Docs? I've actually
ducks. I'm just
got
going to
them.
scroll. Come on. So there's input files, which is what I'm using, and they're my favorite. Oh, actually, can you make that about 150% for me?
Sure.
How can I set inputs? There we go. So there's a how can I set inputs on the right hand side?
How can I set
Could you make it a tiny? Yeah, like 2 steps bigger than that. Beautiful. I can read that now. So the inline control code, so the input name value, so you can set a default for that input. That's a way of setting it. I would never recommend setting it that way, but that's kind of like part of the language. Pretty nice way of using it. If anyone's got a way of using that input like that, let me know. I don't like using that way um, because it doesn't really do what I really like to do. Is that you're separating your data from your logic here. So
Mhm.
if you're using an input file, which is um, the second one, where is it? Where is the input file? The fourth one. I can read honestly. So if you're using the fourth one, which is input file, you put
Oh,
your data. You can put your data in the input file. If you're using the CLI option, you can kind
mhm.
of populate that data with values. If you've got some sort of automation that can, when as you're running InSpec, can say InSpec exec blah 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 profile whatever dash dash input and then the name of the input and then values.
Okay.
You could that's kind of separating your data out. You can have your values sort of populated there on that CLI option via an automation tool that's running InSpec. I really like the fact that you can have a file here, so you've got your data extracted away. So say this is a thing that can vary between environments. So let's say
Mhm.
you've got 2 clusters. You've got cluster A and cluster B. Cluster A is let's say they're in red green mode, and you're rolling out a new way of running HA proxy, and your load balancer rules are going to be different. And on the red cluster, it's going to be, let's say, adding an extra HTTP option, and so you're going to check for that. So you'll add an extra input to say, yeah, enable this control in the red if
Mhm.
you're over here, and don't enable it in blue. So by default, you wouldn't enable it. So as you're rolling these things out, you kind of think about like feature flags. That's another way of saying it. So,
Oh, okay. Okay,
so
okay, okay.
you can kind of see like you can use these inputs for feature flags, drawing up your code,
Mhm.
separating your data from your logic.
Okay. Yeah, so like a separation of concerns type of.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
like so I am going to worry about like in my inspect file. So my inspect file could have been freaking huge there. So instead of like looping over these things 15 times, I just go, right, what am I setting? Another one I've done in the past is if you've got, let's say you're installing a version of Ruby with
Mm-hmm.
Chef Infra Client,
Mm-hmm.
and this will go on to the compliance mode in a second, but it's not kind of linked to that at the moment. But if you're installing Ruby 226 and you've got a recipe that installs version 226, I might have a snippet of this kicking around somewhere. But let's say you install a specific version of Ruby using using Chef Infra Client, so you
Mm-hmm.
have a variable there in Test Kitchen to say install Ruby 226 because that can change. Like 226 gets out a window and you start installing 302, 301 or something like that. So one of the newer versions of Ruby.
Right.
So that surfaces that kind of variable thing there for maintainers to say we're currently installing version 3. I mean, with inspect test, you also want a thing that is a variable thing change. So when input is perfect there, so rather than having to change something that's way down in the inspect code, you can surface that tunable knob up into an input, and you can tune both of those things. So an attribute for your recipes in Chef Client, and an input in in InSpec. So they're kind of
Okay.
similar, but very very different in the ways that they're implemented. Again, in both cases, we're separating the tunable knob into. I wonder if I've got it's kicking around somewhere. This would be a quite nice example to show.
Yeah.
Ruby. It'd be like, where is it? It's gonna not do my nothing if I can't find this now. You see that there with you see pull out a value, and this is the thing I'm going to change between my test suites is the
Mm-hmm.
version of Ruby. So I'll uninstall um, uninstall Ruby 226, and then I'll test that it's actually 226 is installed. So rather than having to write a brand new test suite, a brand new inspect test suite, and a brand new set of recipes just to change the version, you can just say, right, let me just tell you which versions I want you installed. What you need to install. Ruby underscore
Okay. That makes sense.
RBM. It might be in here somewhere. Let me just, before I share my screen, I'm just going to check I'm not talking out of my butt, which I might still be. It's not
Learning in
here.
public. Learning in public.
Where did I put it? Hmm.
So like another actually
Java?
the docs while you look for that.
Yeah, go for it. I think it's in the
Um,
Java. It might not be in the Java cookbook. It might be somewhere else.
okay. Um,
Ah, I got it. There we go. Lovely. Found
oh
it.
cool. Well, real quick though.
Yeah, go for it.
So um one of the things that I find fascinating, and it kind of alludes to that whole separation of concerns that you were talking about, is that the profile, like if you're using an inspect profile, it can include another profile that can set inputs in the included profile.
Yeah,
And
so
so
I've never done
that's a
this.
weird approach.
So I haven't got an example of this. So a
Yeah.
profile can have inputs. So I can show this. Let's just quickly grab that. So just so profiles can have inputs. So this is how you set up inputs.
Hmm.
So I've got a profile here called pie that bakes pies, and then I've got a disabled kernel modules input. So it's in the
Hmm.
it's in the inspect YAML. This is kind of way you set it up. No description, the type. So it's Boolean, array, string, and I think integer. There may be another one, but I haven't used that. Surprise, surprise! You'll hear me say I haven't used all of every single feature in Chef,
Oh,
but it's okay.
you haven't?
I can't believe this.
Call the authorities.
So and then you can set some default values. So value here and then SND. So if I don't set any inputs for it, if I don't pass it an input file, input array, and that kind of stuff,
Right.
I can set values here. So these are the default values. I want to make sure that these are disabled all the time. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what if I include this profile then? I then can set these tunables. So in theory, let's see if I can do this now. You know what? I've got the new generator. So if I just do chef generate profile inherit, an example to just inherit it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not profile. It's no, no. I updated my chef TK chef workstation. Sorry, and it's rolled back.
Oh,
It's rolled
so
something back, which I can fix. Is this something that Dan wants to fix on air?
say it again.
Something Dan wants to fix on air? Maybe not. Opt workstation. Cd lib. So,
Dan the Builder.
let's see. It's a, right. I'm just going to monkey patch this online. So give me 2 seconds. Can you fill some air for me whilst I?
Yeah, for sure.
There's a pre-release happening, and I need the code from the pre-release because there's some really cool like generated scripts. So where are you? So cd into
So let's see. I don't know. I think one of the other questions that I would have is how do you tell which profiles support inputs? Um, okay, so I'm looking at the docs here. And it says the best way for a profile to indicate that it supports inputs is to list them in a metadata file, which is the InSpec YAML. Okay. Any profile that has inputs or the deprecated attributes section. Wait, yeah, any profile that has an inputs section in its inspec.yaml meta file is configuring inputs. Okay, so then it has to be specified in the inspec.yaml. That said, any profile that uses the DSL keyword input or the deprecated attribute in the control source code supports inputs. Very interesting. So then if it's not in the inspec.yaml file, then we don't support inputs and will it fail?
I think it'll just ignore it.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Uh,
So it looks like we've got some new folks on Twitch. Hi everybody. Just to kind of like give an overview of what we're going over today. We're going over inspect inputs, and inspect inputs have actually just replaced inspect attributes. Why? That's a great question. Because inspect attributes have been really getting confused with chef attributes and chef infra attributes. So they were just renamed to inspect inputs. And that's why you see inputs. We're talking about inputs here, but you might have seen attributes in our tweet earlier. And Dan is looking for a great example for us. So,
Dan is trying to hack things. He's failing miserably at the moment. All I need to go and do is copy some files over. But I'm now in a rush.
no
So
need to rush.
apparently, Yeah, never mind. Why am I doing this? Why is it doing this? Anyway, let's see if we can do this again without doing that, because I'm just going to copy my profile. And you'll see why. Paste it in here. So I call it inherit. It's a really cool feature, and I've mistakenly updated my profile because, of course, I did. So my inheriting profile, we'll call it inherit. And again, we'll just call it profile to inherit. So we've got a profile. We can inherit the stuff in this profile. So that's why I wanted a generator. Oh, because I've done it wrong. What
Uh-oh.
am I doing with my life? This is bad. There we go. There we go. Get out of there. Inherit profile. Inherit. So we don't need any inputs for the inheriting profile.
Mm-hmm.
In controls, we're going to get rid of everything there, and then go to the inspect lock. Delete. And we're going to go into here. Just pull your example out a second. Ooh, you'll see my window go funny. Also moving around. Include TP profile. Where is that example you put on it? Where's the example?
I have an example pulled up from the docs.
Yeah. So I've got it. Whereabouts in docs is it? Because I can't see it. Okay, so it's wrapper. Okay, so let me just go. I'll grab your screen back again. So if I go inspec, and then depends on name hi, I think it's, and then path.
So
Path is going to be around here somewhere, pi, because it'll be folded
right,
next to it, basically. Cool.
your child pi is your child profile.
Inputs. And then we'll do name, which is disabled kernel modules. Value, and then we'll just go into our controls. Where are we? We'll grab these two. So we would okay. A little bit of YAML for everyone's good.
So then in the example in the docs, it says that you have to set the profile to override the value. Well, or to
Yeah. So I think we're on. Actually, let me just check.
what are we on?
InSpec version. Which version of InSpec are we on? Four five two. Okay.
Oh, okay. So we don't need that then.
Yes,
What
we do.
do we?
Yeah, we're in spec 4, so
Oh, okay.
we need it on anything above. Let me just grab your documentation. Anything above inspec 4. So we're on 452. So yeah, we'll have that.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So
anything
what have I
above
got?
that.
So I've got depends on. We're going to depend on the Pi cookbook for a start, for a Pi profile for a start, and then we're going to set some inputs. So disabled kernel modules have a value, and then we're going to pass that through to the Pi cookbook, which is what that profile bit is doing there. And then
Mm-hmm.
so so that should be fine, I think. And let's just see if I can do. So in my cookbook, I point to my kitchen file down here. InSpec tests. So if I, instead of doing that, I'll do pull those out inherit. I'll talk about something else whilst that does it in the background because that'll take a while.
Oh, okay.
But this is gonna go away. Create a kitchen, a vagrant box underneath, using parallels, and then converge the node. And once the node is converged, we should. No, Dan will not demo anything today.
Uh-oh. Okay. Raw. So what is it saying?
Fine.
All right. Kitchen action.
It's fine. I just need to wake up. It's just sitting there.
You gotta scratch it. Just.
Oh, interesting. So profile dependency, local path. Chef Pi. Pi does not exist. So. Oh, that's interesting.
What is it saying?
So it's the
Hold on.
path is a bit weird. So Chef Pi. Cookbook. What? Cookbook. Clients. Profiles. Inherit. For now, we're going to put a full on.
Uh-huh.
That?
Fully
Does that work?
qualified
Oh, Pi.
tab.
What did it say? It was so dot forward slash. So that takes up to right. So that should work. He says convincingly. Okay, so that's good. So we've got it inheriting, but it's not actually inherited because we didn't include controls. Don't think.
In the InSpec YAML? Yeah.
So then we need to go into. I thought that would do it, but I'm wrong. Include. Double check the syntax. So InSpec include controls. In fact, you know what? There's a whole blog post on this, so you should all check this out. Anyone around who hasn't seen the blog post, I haven't read because I haven't read every single blog post on the. Wow, this is ages ago. This is like from 2017.
Oh wow.
So yeah. So that's a really nice blog post. So I'm just going to nab the screen share a second.
Okay.
And change it over. So I'm going to go through it. So real quickly, make it a bit bigger. Bam, bam, bam. And this kind of speaks to what I was speaking about earlier on, about kind of drawing it a bit code and sort of separating things out. if you've got a profile that multiple departments use. So let's say you've got a profile that security department require you to have, rather than copying and pasting their code or making sure that your cookbook looks a little bit like theirs. Um, in, InSpec allows you to inherit profiles from Git, SSH, and Supermarket, and a bunch of other places. So your security team can go just continuously release their stuff, their profiles, as a separate release process, and then you can then pull it down and test that cookbook. Sorry, test their profiles, which is really nice
Hmm.
because they can go away, continue doing all of their InSpec security stuff, and then you can do your InSpec testing stuff, which is really nice. So it kind of separates the two teams out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so we do have our depends on this. Depends on the name of the thing we're including. So that's depends name and then a path. In this case, on the example, it's a URL. We can then go include controls. So can I include controls? Oh, hello. I'm apparently very tired. Include
See,
controls. Hi.
so okay. In
Yeah.
that second example though, skipping a control from a profile, that looks like it could be done with waivers. It's the same thing.
Uh-huh. So let me just skip back to kind of. It's a different way of doing it. So it actually works now. Now I've included the controls. So when you
Okay.
click, and this is what I thought would happen. So I feel like I've been kind of vindicated in my head. I was like, surely you need to include the controls. So you include the profile, and then you either include all the controls, which is what I've done here. So include controls. Oh, hello, camera. I need to do it eventually. This is my timer for every half an hour. It's fine. But it's not shaking around. So this is the
Mhm.
pro. This is the price I pay for not having a shaky camera. Um, so here I'm including all the controls from the Pi profile. That is
Mhm.
everything. And if I want to skip a control, I do skip control. And then I've got which one is it? One of these is not. I don't care about the HTTP control. So yeah, so there's a difference between waving and skipping. And it's a really interesting point you brought up actually, because let me just show our things here.
Okay.
So ah, maybe it's capitalized. It's probably capitalized. There we go. It was capitalized. So you'll see here when we run the Pi profile, it now doesn't have the HTTP profile in there at all, which is different from skipping it. Well, it's different from waving the control. So skipping a control and waving a control are not the same thing. Uh, uh, I'm gonna do some hand wavy. So let's get in. Let's get in close. The difference between if you want to skip a control and you've
Mhm.
included the profile, let me say the Apache Linux baseline is a really good example of this. So
Okay.
when I include, no, I could wave my arms. Let me just go and get the Apache because this is a much better example to see with code. So the Apache baseline includes a ton of very specific controls.
Mhm.
I'm saying this. Have I actually got? It's still there. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Default. It is there. Yeah, lovely. I was going to screen share something that might not have worked. I was just double check it before I did it.
That's yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense, Dan.
I mean, it's the only thing it does today. So I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. Uh, so we've included the controls from the DevSec Apache baseline. I included this on Apache just like I did there. Include profile, include the profile, then include the controls. So you can include a profile and then not run any controls. Like it'll just get included and nothing will happen. Once you include them, you may not want all of the controls to run. They may not be applicable for your environment. It may test things that just will never exist. So there's a hardening conf that Apache baseline expects to be there. There's some assumptions that they make. The community cookbook does not put a hardening.conf file on disk. It
Okay.
just doesn't do it. So instead of testing this file that may or may not exist, doesn't exist by default, we don't put it there. You say, well, we don't deal with a hardening.conf, so we just don't test anything that mentions hardening.conf. So we skip those controls.
Right, right, right.
So it's a thing that we never plan to implement. It will never be applicable to our environment.
Right.
So we could, like, in theory, eventually go right. Well, in 6 months' time, we plan to have a hardening conf. If that was the case, that's a waivers really kick in, because you
Okay.
waive it until a point. This is
Right,
kind of
right,
like
right.
you can
Now,
think of
okay.
it like almost a to do
Yep, that
waivers.
makes sense.
Like,
Yep, yep.
yeah. And I hadn't really thought about, like, when I heard about waivers. First of all, I was like, I mean, yeah, they're a thing, but why would I not just skip the control? Skip controls don't remind you. Skip controls do not time out. Skip controls do not kick you in the butt when you've forgotten for 6 months that the
Gotcha.
security thing, like, let's say you're doing SSH hardening, and you're hardening your SSH file. Right, 2 weeks time, I want this done. I want this thing we're about to roll out. So we're going to write the cookbooks, or we're going to write cookbooks, and they're going to be rolled out to production in 2 weeks. That's fine. You've got, let's say you've got compliance mode that links the shift info phase and the inspect phase, the compliance phase together. So you've written the test and you write a waiver because you're like, well, this won't pass for 2 weeks.
Right. Oh,
We're not
right,
planning to have
right.
it right for 2 weeks. And then
Okay.
you can say, right, well, it'll expire. Like this whole thing, if you haven't done it in 2 weeks, like, this should be a flat out error. It should be broken. You're failing tests now.
Exactly.
But yeah, skip controls. We don't care. I don't include that thing. Like, don't tell security, but I don't really care about that thing.
Got you.
It's okay.
Okay,
We're
okay.
all cool. And that's the big thing here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh,
All right,
I'm
I got
really
my
glad that I
wires
can type
crossed.
quickly, because I was not expecting to be able to do that. What if I can do? Can I do? Yes. So let me just go and. Oh, where is my screen share? Let's re-screen share, and I wonder if I can show us, so that the inputs there are working. So we've got SND and then BCM 2835. Do not ask me what those modules are. They're magic. They're just not required. This is fine. On Raspberry Pis anyway. I don't need them. So if I just have SND, if I just have the SND as part of the array, it does, thankfully, only use that one input. So hey, I actually now only care about the SND kernel module.
Okay.
In fact, let me just do let's do the
Uh-huh.
other way around, so we've got some green tests. This is not a real world usage here, but I'm just showing the way we can tune our things. So if you do you have any feedback about this? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
If you just really are like enjoying trolling me or just enjoying seeing me in pain, then I'm cool with that too. But you see, this is overriding the default values here. So if I go to a kitchen YAML, so one of the ways we can, let's see if we can do an input file as well. See what happens when we set an input file. Because I don't think it does. This is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that input file is setting inputs, and this is going to be a sort of a roundabout way of talking about it. So I've got an input in the parent profile
Right.
called, so it's got an input called disabled kernel modules. Fine.
Right.
So when I pass inputs now, it passes it to that profile rather than the other one because I'm not calling the other one. And how do I know that? So we're going to make kitchen YAML. My InSpec tests are there. So I'm pointing myself at the parent profile. I call it inherit profile. I should just call it parent profile. So it's a bit like doing InSpec exec profile name, in this case, inherit. So when I do InSpec exec, blah blah blah, and then dash dash input file, that's how I'm getting my input files into underneath the hood. So I'm passing inputs to that profile exactly, which is then passing it to the Pi profile via here, which is cool. So if I didn't do the let's prove this before I say it. Let's prove it before I say it.
Prove
No,
it.
this still does it.
Oh, it worked.
Still works. But if I don't, and I think the last one to see is what happens if I don't. I haven't got an input on the parent profile, but it's still on the child profile. Yes, the defaults come through then. So my child profile has two defaults, SND and SND BCM. The parent profile hasn't overwritten that.
Okay.
So I've got,
Okay.
so this has got inputs. It's very similar files actually. So inputs, name, value, profile. So I'm setting these inputs for this profile here. And then in the Pi profile, I've got some inputs with a default value. Default value here. So that's how that's. Does that make sense?
That
Let me know
makes
if that makes sense because let me know in the chat if that makes sense. Or do I need to explain that again? Because I'm happy to explain that again one more time.
Say it again for the people in the back. No.
Yeah,
No, it does. So let me make sure that I'm understanding correctly. I'm gonna repeat it back to you.
yeah,
So
go for it.
essentially, when you're inheriting from a child profile, right?
Yeah,
Um, you set your inputs in the child profile, and then you're able to reference them in the parent profile.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So if you don't, in your child profile, if you don't set this, let's try again. So what you described just then was this here. So Pi is a child profile. It's got some inputs that can be, it's got some knobs that can be turned.
Yep. Right. Yep.
To be able to turn those knobs in the parent profile, in this case inherit,
Right.
you want to do this.
Right. And you have to. Yep. And
But if you don't want to do that, so if you can still include a profile, inherit it, not to do that, and then you can still send inputs to your child profile. You can still you can still do that. So if you think about it, if you're coming from the Chef Infra world,
Mm-hmm.
you you can set known attributes for anything. You can set a known attribute for a thing that doesn't exist. You can. It's a bit like setting a variable for part of a program that just doesn't exist yet.
Right. Okay.
Kind of like this. So in Chef Infra, let's say you've got node A, B, C. So your node attribute is let's say we're setting this node foo foo uh fine equals baz. Set that. That'll work perfectly. You won't do anything. But that allows you so that value can get pulled in by any cookbook.
Oh, okay.
So when you're setting inputs and you send them to the system,
Mm-hmm.
that can get picked up by any of the profiles, which is really handy. And this is this is kind of how Ohio works with InSpec. And
Okay.
I'm probably going to be butchering how awesome this is, so apologies. But if you're passing attributes, let's say Ohio has found, Ohio can detect system level properties like which OS you're on and what cloud you're on. Let's pick two of those things. It can
Mm-hmm.
pick, and then how many CPUs you've got, that kind of stuff. Let's pick CPU. If you've got 4 CPUs, maybe you want to have configure something a different way. Well, on InSpec, there isn't usually an easy way to do that. Well, OHI can pass all of that stuff across as inputs, and I'm almost certain it does. So let's find out.
Okay.
Yeah, so OHI is populated. It's trolled the system, got its information, and it can pass that across in the compliance phase as known attributes. So OHI compliance phase chef okay, there's I wonder if I've documented it yet because chef node data. There we go. So you can explicitly pass data. Let's make it a bit bigger because no one will like this. I'll shove that link in the chat as well. But you can pass chef node data across. So OHI data into InSpec. So you can say, right, if I'm in the AWS cloud, do my AWS tests. If I'm in GCP, do the GCP tests.
Right, right, right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You can configure it based on the system.
Yeah, which is really, really nice.
It's awesome.
There we go. There's a good example. So
Uh-huh.
environment, attribute, environment, and then fine. And then that's how you kind of loop it all together. I wonder if there's OHI on this page. Not OHI. No. So I don't know how it's exactly configured under the hood. But that's basically how you can get your OHI data. If I get a chance, I might go and talk to the PM and see if we can get some documentation on sort of how you access that and how that works under the hood, because that's kind of interesting. Like,
For
so
sure.
OHI has scraped my system, found out I'm on GCP, and then InSpec then can get all of that data and use that. So there's some nice helpers with an OHI now to say AWS question mark, to figure out what kind of platform you're on.
For sure.
And that allows you to do that. Under the hood, that's all going to be just inputs. So you're passing data through the system. And the main way of getting data into InSpec is inputs, which is cool.
Okay. That is cool. That is cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So it looks like we've got some new folks on where
Yeah. How are we doing? How are we doing over there?
uh,
Who the heck is on my channel? Let's have a quick look.
right? Who's on
Who do I
there?
need to
Hi
grill?
from Hi from Dan's Twitch. We are going over InSpec Inputs, which have replaced InSpec attributes. Dan just showed us some great examples on how to use profile inheritance to inherit inputs from um, child profiles. And if you missed it, you're going to be able to catch it on YouTube because we're awesome and we put our lives. All right, maybe it's not just us; it's YouTube is awesome, and all of our lives just continue to stay there. So
Yeah.
feel free to ask any questions. Put them in the chat. If you got any feedback, put it in the chat. Um, and for YouTube, if you're watching later on, feel free to leave a comment. And we do go back and answer these comments at least once a week. So
Yeah, there was a nice YouTube comment on last week about some of our streams. So we did catch that, and thank you so much for leaving those comments because we do see them, and you know, feedback from the audience occasionally because um, whilst I do indeed enjoy talking to the void, which is basically my entire life. So when I'm not online, I'm still talking to the monitor, so it's fine.
you talk to the monitor even when you're not streaming?
Oh yeah, I'm like, why isn't this working? Oh, I'm just one of these people that just can't like like how do
Yeah, it's like
I?
rubber ducking.
Yeah, it's I find I go quicker with it.
For sure. I mean, because you get
It's-
to talk through ideas with your
yeah, totally.
when you listen to it or you say it out loud, it's just like, okay, this makes more sense. It's like having the rubber duck, you
Yes,
know?
yeah, definitely.
Oh, oh, and for folks that are on right now, next week, not next week, I'm sorry. On Thursday,
Yes, I mean,
we're
I'm
chatting
excited.
with Dan Alford. Alford.
Alford, 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 Alford.
Alford.
I
So we're
mean,
gonna
I'm
have
sure we'll grill him about his last name on Friday. Oh, on Thursday. Um,
so we're
yeah, it's
talking about
cool.
mentoring tech leads.
So we're talking about mentoring people, which is really interesting. I think. Anyway, let me drop a link to his Medium article in the chat. So tech leads. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh QRBD. Oh QBRD. I always get this wrong. He's back. He's back. He's back. QB, how you doing,
Oh,
dude?
yay, KBRD, hey.
Um,
Wait, we figured out who that was and now I forget.
yeah. PM me wherever you can on Slack,
Right?
and then like berate me for forgetting who it was, please. I just need to know who it is because I love the support. I genuinely love the support.
For sure, for sure.
It's making my day. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I'm like, oh, I'll just want to do one thing, and then like the entire day goes. This is how my honestly. So this is my week. I like yesterday morning. I'll just do one little thing, and I'll stream getting the package cloud cookbook, and that was like basically the entire morning done. And in the afternoon, I don't know what I was doing. And then this
Mhm.
morning, I just yeah,
You
again
streamed
like I'll
again?
just do a little bit of like engineering stuff, and that takes up like a entire amount of time. And like there was something I was supposed to start doing this morning. Like flipping heck, really flipping heck.
But well, I guess in this case it's good because, streaming like we're trying to get our streaming program going. So you're taking one for the team, Dan, you
I don't know.
know?
I quite enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
the stream I did this morning was so if you like to see progress, not a pun. Let me see if I can find it. The Package Cloud Cookbook hasn't been updated in 5 years. So this is I managed to nab it off the original authors. They haven't published it for, I think, there we go, 3 years. They bumped the version 3 years ago. Oh yeah. Fix issues with newer versions of Chef 11 plus, newer versions of Chef. So this has been like 11. It's like 4 years. It's so long ago. So many releases ago. So
Yeah, I'm
I
just
did
looking
a
at those
open this pull
timestamps.
request. I did
And
a migrate to like sous chefs.
mhm.
I changed 34 files. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff I've got, and I don't know. It's
Oh wow, is that what you did on live?
yeah. I did a lot of deleting, which is fun. Some of them are just standard, like unified mode, of course, because I'm always banging on about unified mode. But this one's really interesting, and the LVM cookbook might be one as well. In fact, might be. It's on my list now. It's on my hit list now. The LVM cookbook
Mhm.
for converting. I think they're HWRP or an LWRP, one of the two. I always get them mixed up. The ones that got like split resource provider and changing them to a resource, and that cookbook's got a bunch of them. And it's quite, yeah, like that's the old way of doing it, and the new way of doing it is much simpler, which is really really nice. Like it makes way more sense when you're reading it, and that's quite cool.
Okay.
This cookbook had a thanks file in it. Oh, I love this. I joked about this morning. I was like, oh, thanks, and then I deleted the thanks file. I was like, no thanks for anybody else. Just deleted the thanks file.
It's like
But
bye.
this is about
Oh,
there's a contributors tab.
nice.
Um, this is cool. The thanks tab is really really cool. I'm severely tangent at this point, but the thanks file is really like a really nice touch. It's very manual.
Mhm. And you get to recognize folks that contributed, which is awesome. Folks deserve to be recognized.
Yeah. Turns out it's out of date because there are actually
Uh-huh.
17 people who have contributed. So we're not
Oh,
saying thanks to all the people who contributed,
right, right,
including the
right.
fact.
And then GitHub does a really good job at just saying thanks.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
there you go. Like all these people, like even the small people, or the people
Right.
who used to work in the cookbook, who used to work at at chef, like yes, it was their job, but actually, like the community stuff is not always a core part of people's jobs. So actually,
Mhm.
still thanking them is I'm think it's a really cool, like a really nice way of doing it.
That's nice.
So yeah, get rid of the thanks. So the thanks file was funny. Thor file, we don't need that anymore. Get rid of that. Vagrant file. Turns out Test Kitchen does that for us now. Thanks very much. The chef ignore documentation. And this is always a fun one. So the platforms that are like, where's my kitchen file? These, not a single one of these platforms, I think, was in the old file. So CentOS 7 hadn't been released yet.
Mm. Wow.
And you're like, what's going on? Like CentOS 7 hadn't been released, so we hadn't it wasn't in the test matrix anywhere. It was just not tested. Like Alma wasn't even a thing in anyone's eyes. So yeah. This is a weird one that people might not see. Chef spec matches. It's how chef spec used to know about custom resources.
Mhm.
Now it just knows about it implicitly because it got patched to like know how to work with it about 4 years ago. Get rid of the whole file. In fact, I can probably get rid of this file using Cookstyle. Oh, we've got the weird spammer back.
Ah, hilarious. Well,
Yeah. Well, you know what? We can block that user too. It's fine. This is weird. What an awesome, odd little bot. And then there was a bunch of fine, whatever. I think most of this is just formatting.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm going to go off tangent though. So let's wrap up because I have actually got a meeting to go to that I'm probably going to be. I say probably going to be late. Sorry, Lance, I'm already late.
All right. Cool
I'm
beans.
just giving him his morning back. But yeah, so that's the stream this morning was interesting. If anyone wants to go back and have a look at that stream, give me some pointers on any of the streams. Love it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yes, give us a
Any
shout.
feedback is great, especially from the community. Um, and we will oblige.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Um,
So
right.
yes, tune in on Thursday. Dan Alford talk about mentoring with
Yeah.
mentoring tech leads, and yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Cool.
we can call this one a wrap.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much for
Bye.
joining today. Take it easy.